Number 10. Miles Morales. I know what you are all about to say. Hasn't it been confirmed that Miles will not be in Far From Home? And yes, producer Eric Carroll has been reported as saying no when asked about the potential appearance of Miles Morales in the newest Spider-Man film. However, did we not think that Far From Home was going to take place before Homecoming, only to have Disney flip the script on us? They have misled us and lied to us before. After the success of Sony's Into the Spider-Verse, I think the world has proven how very ready we are for more Miles Morales. I'm hoping that Disney will have noticed this attention and may give us at least a glimpse of the character in the newest film. Loyal Miles fans have been pointing to the deleted scene from Homecoming wherein Aaron Davis, played by Donald Glover, appears to be talking to Miles on his phone. For those who don't know, Aaron Davis in the comics is Miles' uncle who ends up becoming the villain Prowler. Number 9. MJ Fury? Alright, so I had to acknowledge this. MJ is Nick Fury's daughter, apparently. Despite not being a big believer of this myself, I have had a few friends bring it up during Far From Home discussions, and so this theory is for all you believers. Fans have noticed a similarity in the way both Nick Fury and MJ dress, they share a color scheme, they both have a similar sense of humor as well, and some have even gone as far to acknowledge that at one point MJ's hair covers one of her eyes, and fans are left thinking, eye patch anyone? Another plot point that has been highlighted is that Nick Fury has mentioned he has a wife. His wife is mentioned in Winter Soldier when he is laying low at Cap's apartment. Her name? Sharon Hannah Imogen Emanuela Lara Davis. Her initials? SHIELD. More likely that this was Fury communicating in code during what was a suspected bugged conversation. Though I am skeptical about the connection between MJ and Fury, Disney has been known to try and breathe new life into the old comic book history that we feel we already know. And this could be another attempt to shake things up. Number 8. Norman Osborn. The moment we have all been waiting for, Norman Osborn making his grand entrance into the MCU. Many people are speculating that certain Easter eggs are being left behind as a setup for Norman Osborn to enter the MCU as the new big bad in the next phase of Marvel films. If you haven't kept up to speed on all the evidence we have been gathering, let me share a few points of interest. We still don't have a full origin story for Peter Parker. This mystery could be easily solved by the appearance of Osborn. Stark Towers was sold and purchased by a mystery buyer, who would be wealthy enough to buy the property. Not only that, but there is the mystery of the benefactor who wants to snatch up all of Hank Pym's tech, and is willing to pay $1 billion. All of these signs could be pointing to Osborn and his Oscorp. Combine that with the fact that Roger Wardwell, famed Marvel leaker, tweeted that Norman Osborn would be the new big bad in the next phase in tweets that were later deleted, and you have, to me, a pretty solid case for this theory becoming a reality. Number 7. Nick Fury is a Skrull. This fan theory, if proven true, could be a huge game changer for the franchise, as it could take us into Secret Invasion territory. But why would we even think this of Fury? A character well loved and often trusted by both heroes, colleagues, and fans alike. Coming out of the Captain Marvel film involving Skrulls, there were a few questions left unanswered, which made fans suspicious of who Fury may really be. In Captain Marvel, Fury tells Carol as proof that he is not a Skrull some obscure details about himself that Skrulls would normally struggle to create or know. He specifically confesses that he cannot eat bread if it is diagonally cut. Die-hard fans have referenced a scene in Age of Ultron where Fury can potentially be seen eating what appears to be very diagonally cut bread. Yeah, that's right, that's how intense you guys are. Akin to this, many fans have felt the change that we see in Fury from young agent to head of S.H.I.E.L.D. is so different that he must not be who he says he is. Character development aside, the point that has left me wondering the most was this last one. When the Skrulls land on Earth, in Captain Marvel, we see 4 of them. The Science Skrull is killed by Yon-Rogg, one dies in the car chase near the beginning, and Talos leaves the planet with his family. But where does the other one end up? Is it possible that this Skrull stayed behind and became Fury in an attempt to infiltrate Earth's government and make it easier for Skrulls to later invade the planet? Number 6. Sinister 6. How long have we waited for this theory to pan out? What feels like forever, am I right? But with Far From Home within reach, it is possible that our wait could be almost over. In fact, someone claiming to work for Disney in animation under the cover of the username RoyG575 on Reddit leaked that the time for the Sinister 6 could be nigh. A Sinister 6 film could be a nice foil to DC's Suicide Squad. I do love me some villain franchises after all. RoyG G575 claims that Far From Home will have a mid-credit scene and post-credit scene, and that the post-credit scene will introduce the Sinister Six. The post on Reddit claims the Six will be comprised of Vulture, Shocker, Scorpion, Chameleon, Mysterio, and of course, potential big bad, Norman Osborn. Goodness, am I ready for this fan theory and leak to be true? Number 5. Mysterio is Peter Parker. Wait, what? Yep, you heard me right. One fan on Reddit, Chef the Killer, watched the clip that was released of Mysterio and Peter Parker's pep talk and theorized that it felt like Mysterio was Peter Parker, but perhaps from a different universe. Mysterio is coming into Far From Home claiming that the multiverse is real and he traveled here through a dimensional rift. If this is true, he could be an alternate Peter Parker who under different circumstances became Mysterio, but is still even perhaps a hero, like he claims. The talk they have does make it sound like Mysterio is giving a talk to his past self, and seeing Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal next to each other definitely makes me feel like Gyllenhaal could be cast as an older version of Holland's character, or vice versa. This theory is pretty out there, but is it weird that I kind of want it to be true? Number 4. Multiverse. As I said, Mysterio's excuse for being here is that he came through an interdimensional rift, chasing elementals which have wreaked havoc on his own world, and that he came here to stop them. If there is even a semblance of truth to this story, there is a good chance that this means the multiverse is real. Even better, if this fan theory is true and Far From Home confirms the existence of the multiverse, the possibility for Marvel films becomes endless. Gwenpool movie, anyone? While some are hesitant to believe that Marvel and Disney are headed down this route, they cannot deny the success of Into the Spider-Verse, and some are hoping that Sony's success will persuade them to introduce the multiverse to the MCU. Fingers firmly crossed for this one. Number 3. Nick Fury is the Chameleon. I know, a lot of my fan theories revolve around Nick Fury, but what can I say? Fans just seem to love Fury, and I definitely can't blame them. And apparently a lot of people are concerned about the way Fury appears to be behaving in the next Marvel film. One of the things that is greatly concerning everyone is how quickly Fury seems to trust Mysterio, especially considering how slow he is to trust like just about everyone else in the MCU. This has fans theorizing that Fury isn't himself at all, and maybe not even a Skrull, but instead one of Spidey's oldest villains, the Chameleon. Whether or not he'll be appearing in this film has yet to be confirmed, though Newman Acar is slated to play a character named Dmitri, which could be a potential reference to Dmitry Smirdyakov, Chameleon's civilian identity. Chameleon's appearance could also explain Fury's behavior and get us closer to the Sinister Six appearance we've all been dreaming of. Number 2. Spider-Man Origins. We all know that Far From Home is the official end to this phase of the Marvel franchise. In it, we will be exploring what we are left with in the aftermath of Endgame. A lot of this will revolve around Spider-Man feeling the loss of Tony Stark and responsibility left him by Iron Man. And in this, it is rumored that a dark secret of Tony's will also be revealed. Some are speculating this secret will actually help diminish the possibility of Norman Osborn appearing as a huge Spider-Man villain and change Osborn's story should he show up. As some suspect, the secret is that Stark Industries was the creator of the radioactive spider that granted Peter his abilities. I like this idea in and of the sense that it would add to Parker's feelings about Stark and how he viewed their relationship. Number 1. Venom. Continuing along our train of thought with number 2, what if Stark's secret was something more diabolical? Something more dangerous that may also lead Parker down a darker path for a while. We can, after all, already see from the clips and trailers released that Far From Home leaves Peter wrestling with his responsibilities and his desire to just be a normal kid. To add to that, I propose a theory that Stark might be hiding in his lab. His dark secret may involve a new suit for Parker, but one that ends up being created from everyone's favorite symbiote, Venom. The suits Peter Parker sports in the films could be dark enough in my mind that it could easily be a nod towards the presence of Venom. If this was a thing Marvel wanted to make happen, I would certainly watch it. Just maybe no emo hair and dancing for this one, please. So I actually wish this list had been longer, as there were so many great fan theories that I couldn't even include all the ones that I wanted to share. Namely the idea that Robert Downey Jr. will forever live on as Iron Man in voiceover land.
And at number 10, the release date. With Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home recently being released, it seems as though the MCU's Phase 3 has come to a close. But that just means fans will be theorizing all over the internet about when Phase 4 will begin. One of the movies confirmed for Phase 4 is Black Panther 2, and after the box office success of the first film, it's been reported that Ryan Coogler will be preparing the screenplay for Black Panther 2 this year. However, it's imperative to Marvel to make this film even better than the last, which will be no easy task. If we look at previous dates that Disney seems to cherish for Marvel movie releases, we could see Black Panther 2 being released in either November of 2020 or perhaps February of 2021, to capitalize on Black History Month. In at number 9, a resurrected villain. Way back in May of 2018, the Metro UK had reported that Michael B. Jordan would probably maybe reprise his role of the villain Eric Killmonger. Although we all saw, spoiler alert, Killmonger die at the end of the first Black Panther, so how could he possibly return for the second film? Well, the internet has its theories, so here's what we believe is the most plausible. Seeing as though for a moment Eric had taken on the mantle of Black Panther, that would mean that once he had perished, his soul would now be with the previous Black Panther warriors on the ancestral plane. So with that in mind, Eric might make an appearance, but only in the afterlife to give advice to T'Challa upon his triumphant return to Wakanda. Or maybe he'll give him bad advice. Who knows? In at number 8, King M'Baku. During the widespread death scenes that went on in Avengers Infinity War after Thanos had snapped his fingers, we got a shot of Wakanda's soldiers being dusted in the battlefield. However, at the very end of that scene, we see M'Baku get a close-up and then remain intact. T'Challa also vanished in the snapping, which meant that the throne of Wakanda was now missing a king. During that 5-year time period after the snap had occurred, it's very possible that M'Baku had taken control of the throne and thus would be regarded as the villain once T'Challa returns. As one fan theory suggests, M'Baku will become not only the king of Wakanda, but the new Black Panther as well. When T'Challa is brought back, he will challenge M'Baku for the kingship, but before losing, M'Baku will retreat to the mountains where he was before, yet keep the power of the Black Panther. This would then set up a storyline of there being two Wakandans, both with the power of the Black Panther. M'Baku is no stranger to taking on the role of a villain either. In the comic books, he's known as Man-Ape and is traditionally one of the more main villains for T'Challa. In at number 7, Namor the villain. During the scene in Avengers Endgame where Black Widow is getting a status report from the other Avengers, Okoye mentions something about a series of sub-oceanic earthquakes that were occurring off the coast of Africa. When Natasha asks if they need to be handled, Okoye simply says there's nothing that can be done about tectonic shifts, and then the movie kind of just moves on from there. The internet, on the other hand, did not move on. Many fans believe that this subtle line in the movie is hinting towards Namor's introduction. For fans waiting for Black Panther 2, this line could mean that we will get to see the on-screen debut of the battles between Wakanda and Atlantis, where Namor is not only from, but rules. Although as badly as Kevin Feige and fans want Namor to be in this film, it's ultimately going to come down to getting the rights for Namor from Universal Pictures. Always the rights. God. In at number 6, X-Men introduction. In the comic book, Storm and T'Challa were perhaps one of the strongest couples in the Marvel Universe. We watched them as teens where Storm rescued T'Challa with her weather controlling powers, then eventually a proposal and marriage. However, with time, their relationship did lead to divorce and Storm parting ways with Wakanda to stay with the X-Men instead. If there was ever a perfect opportunity to integrate the X-Men into a mainstream Marvel film, Black Panther 2 would be a terrific opportunity. They would have real storylines to work from, and another superhero who could help save Wakanda from whatever evil is on the way. In at number 5, the Soul Stone. The Infinity Stones have all been displayed in a number of different ways throughout the MCU, everything from the Tesseract to the Ether in Thor the Dark World. What one theory suggests is that part of the Soul Stone is fused with the land of Wakanda. Fans believe that a lot of the scenes we see in the first film are actually hinting at the Soul Stone's power coming into play. Everything from Wakanda's ancestral plane that I mentioned before, where T'Challa speaks with his dead father, father for advice, to the source of the heart-shaped herb's power. You know, the one that makes them become the Black Panther. We know though that the Soul Stone, like its physical form, is on Vormir, but the theory is that a piece of Vormir infused with the Soul Stone's powers had landed on Wakanda and then been experimented on by their top scientists, leading to their empowerment. Very possible. In at number 4, KRAVEN the Hunter. Another rumored villain for the Black Panther sequel is classic Spider-Man bad guy KRAVEN the Hunter. In the Spider-Man comics, KRAVEN attempts to prove that he's the world's greatest hunter by taking out the web slinger, but we have yet to see him make a peep in any of the previous Spider-Man films. Ryan Coogler has said in a number of different interviews that he would love to snag KRAVEN for a Black Panther film. Coogler said, being a Marvel fan, you want to grab all of the characters. You realize there's contractual things and you don't have that character. There was a Christopher Priest run that was pretty heavy. There's a big scene where Panther's fighting KRAVEN the Hunter. Although due to Sony owning KRAVEN, it's going to take a lot of back and forth agreements between Disney and Sony just to have them in the film. There is the possibility that we get a mention or a brief teaser scene of KRAVEN, which would actually help set him up for, a larger role perhaps in the next Spider-Man film. In at number 3, Mephisto. If you don't know, Mephisto is Marvel's equivalent to Satan or the devil. Going back to the Christopher Priest comic book run that Coogler mentioned in the last point, Mephisto had a pretty big role as a villain against Black Panther. T'Challa is extremely powerful, so he deals with Mephisto quite easily, but regardless, bringing to life the comic book pages of Mephisto kidnapping Everett Ross and then trying to drag Black Panther to hell would be quite the cinematic adventure in our opinion. In at number 2, Dr. Doom. Another proposed theory of who the villain for the Black Panther sequel could be is Dr. Doom. A while back, before Disney purchased Fox, there was even rumors of the evil Dr. Doom getting his very own film. Although since the buyout happened, a lot of those plans were thrown out. On the bright side of things, this could mean Doom getting an opportunity as the main antagonist for Black Panther 2. The pair have gone head to head in the past, and Doom's appearance would certainly put his home of Latveria in the category of places not to mess with. Much like Wakanda, Latveria is an advanced society, although one that is ruled by Doom's dictatorship rather than a family of royals. Lastly, on our number 1 spot, a new Black Panther. When the snap occurred, Shuri's fate was left unknown. Although with her triumphant return in Avengers Endgame, many fans continued speculating on the role that she'll play in the next Black Panther film. Between the events of Infinity War and the release of Endgame, a lot of fans were theorizing that Shuri wasn't snapped away and had actually taken on the mantle Black Panther in the wake of their leader going missing. Even with T'Challa back, that still doesn't mean that we won't ever get to see a new Black Panther. There's always the possibility that something happens to T'Challa or that he must sacrifice himself for whatever reason, and thus Shuri will take the throne as the next in line. It's an interesting theory and one that would certainly add another tech-savvy genius hero to the Avengers. Plus, after again, spoiler alert, Tony died. We may need that more than ever.
Number 10, Joker takes place in Flashpoint. User Fritzen8805 on Reddit seems to think that DC is trying to set up a Flashpoint universe on the silver screen. If you don't already know, Flashpoint is a universe that was created when Barry Allen, aka The Flash, ran back in time and stopped his mother from being murdered. This caused a whole bunch of changes, making the DC universe to be darker for a time. Batman was a killer and Thomas Wayne, The Flash didn't have his powers, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman had an affair and then went to war. Typical stuff, This theory says that the Joker movie is intended to take place in this universe, since it seems to be darker and grittier than the normal DCEU. This could make sense, with the rumors of a Flashpoint movie constantly going around. It would work if they ever wanted to incorporate it. The theory suggests that at the end of the movie, Joker will be killed by Batman, showing him as a Batman who isn't afraid of killing. However, the Joker in Flashpoint is Bruce Wayne's mother, so that throws a wrench into things. But maybe the parents are gay, who knows? Number 9, he has super sanity. The Joker is generally seen as crazy and chaotic, but perhaps he does what he does because he knows what's going on. What if he is so sane, in fact, that he knows he's in a comic book or movie and he knows his actions have no consequences? What about if he knows his existence relies on Batman appearing, so he becomes obsessed with Batman since without him, he doesn't exist? He also knows that killing Batman is impossible because the writers simply won't let him die. Maybe the Joker is the only sane character in the whole DC universe because he knows the real story. He has no confirmed past because without one he is easier to bring back in another form, and he knows this. He wants to continue living for as long as possible, and that's why he does the crazy things he does, to be featured. Number 8, he's immortal. Based on another backstory from the Joker, in Batman Endgame, the Joker is revealed to have come into contact with the meteor that gave Vandal Savage his immortality, and that in essence created the Lazarus Pit. He encountered the meteor before Gotham was built, and has been living ever since. What if this is why Batman was never able to kill him, not because of his one rule, but because of Joker's superpower? What if, instead of the meteor, he got this power from knowing he's in a comic, thus giving him perfect control over the outcome of his story, or knows that the writers won't kill him off because he's such a popular character? These two theories work in tandem if you think about it in the right way, and if Joker is immortal, it would explain things like the Injustice game story, where he is much more difficult to defeat because of a, as he calls it, happy pill. It could just be his normal immortality being used, but he just makes it seem like it was the pill everyone else took. There are more layers to this theory than you know, so if you know any other things that would be explained by this, let me know in the comments. Number 7, he's Jason Todd. Okay, put out your torch and put the pitchfork down, it's just a theory. A Joker theory. In Suicide Squad, Joker is covered in tattoos, one of which is a bird, the same one that symbolizes Robin. The tear on his cheek is actually a J, which could also stand for Jason rather than Joker. The fact that Joker has left a message for Batman on Robin's old suit in Batman v Superman, the fact that Joker holds his cane in a similar fashion to how Robin's suit holds his lance in Batman v Superman, the bullet holes on the suit in Batman v Superman matching up with the strange marks on Jared Leto's shoulders in Suicide Squad, the evidence adds up. And there is the fact that every Robin, aside from Damian Wayne, has become the Joker at some point. It might include Damian Wayne, I'm not too sure about it. But if he's become the Joker before, he can become the Joker again. Number 6, the Joker and Batman are brothers. Fans seem to think that in the Nolanverse, the Joker and Batman are brothers. What if Thomas and Martha Wayne had another child, but he had severe mental disabilities, so they gave him up to give him his best chance. Then he breaks out of wherever he's kept and finds out he has a brother, and a filthy rich brother at that. Angry that his parents loved his brother more than him, he does more digging and figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. So he dedicates himself to becoming a part of his brother's life and showing him that he is worth something. He hopes Batman kills him to prove that at least he's better than his brother, because even the Joker wouldn't kill his own brother. Remember, on Earth 3, there is Batman's evil counterpart Owlman, who is Thomas Wayne Jr., Bruce Wayne's older brother, who after watching his mother and brother die, ends up turning to crime. Where's the Earth Prime Thomas Wayne Jr.? He's Thomas Wayne Joker. That was bad. Halfway through at number 5, he didn't kill Bruce's parents. The 1989 film Batman brought together the backstories of the Joker and Batman, causing the Joker to be the one who killed Bruce's parents. However, in Batman Year 2, it was revealed that Batman's parents were killed by a criminal named Joe Chill, and Batman goes to hunt him down. So if this is to remain canonical, why does Batman think the Joker did it in the film? Perhaps because Batman needs a reason to hate the Joker for more than being just a menace. Or perhaps he did it to justify why he hates him so much, and by defeating the Joker, he can get some form of closure. This could make sense since being Batman would obviously take a toll on someone's mental health. Perhaps this is Batman's way to cope with the loss, since he's still not over it because they keep rehashing it in every incarnation. Martha! Number 4, he's a recruit of the League of Shadows. The Joker in The Dark Knight never had his backstory revealed, and since everything in the Nolanverse seems to be connected, maybe Joker trained at the same place Bruce did, but failed the final rite, and the drug that was created with the flower ripped his mind to shreds. Maybe his greatest fear was clowns, and that's why he becomes one and waits for his chance to kill Ra's al Ghul. But he never gets the opportunity because Bruce does it first. Maybe this causes the Joker to see Batman as both his enemy and his ally, for taking his kill, but taking out his greatest enemy as well. This could be why he doesn't kill Batman, because he appreciates it. So perhaps there is more of a connection here than we know. It would also explain the Joker's fighting skills as well as his strategy. League of Shadows or League of Assassins, depending on what version you look at. Number 3, the real Joker and Joker. The Joker solo film comes out very soon, or is out now depending on when this is being watched. One theory floating around is that the Joker we see in the movie is not the real Joker, merely the inspiration for the real Joker. This Joker goes crazy and commits crimes like usual and is captured and sent to Arkham, where everyone thinks he's mad, but one person finds him inspiring. That person becomes the Joker towards the end of the film, and that's how the movie ends. Perhaps inspiring a kid to become the next Joker, since the age gap between the Joker and Bruce Wayne is larger than normal in this movie. Perhaps inspiring the Jason Todd of the DCEU, and after being betrayed by Batman, finally chooses to become his original inspiration. All these theories interlock, man. Number 2, he was killed by Batman. Batman famously has one rule that he will never break, but also breaks quite a lot. He won't kill unless he isn't doing it directly. One theory, however, thinks that in Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, after the Joker has broken James Gordon and mentally tortured Batman, that he ended up breaking him too, causing bats to either snap his neck or crush his Joker's neck. The final panels of The Killing Joke show Batman and the Joker laughing at Joker's final joke. I'm saying joke a lot. Then Batman's hands get close to the Joker's neck, and then the laughter cuts off. In the animated version, this gets bumped up, with Batman resting his hands below the Joker's throat while laughing hysterically, and as the camera pans down, the Joker suddenly stops laughing, and Batman continues on. People might have originally assumed the Joker was confused as to why Batman was laughing so much, but maybe that's not the reason. Maybe he's dead. Finally, at number 1, Joker is Bruce's nurse. So you may have heard this theory before, it's been going around for a while, but basically what it's saying is that Bruce Wayne, after the death of his parents, was brought into a mental hospital to help him deal with the trauma. But instead of getting better, he created a world in his mind to retreat into. The villains he faces are the nurses in the hospital, Joker and Harley are nurses who are dating, Killer Croc has a crocodile tattoo, and Two-Face loves flipping coins. I personally love this theory because instead of a big, strong, brave man who is protecting his city, it shows a hero as someone who needs saving, and it helps to show the harsh reality of going through something that would be so traumatic. This is something that can happen in reality, and it has been done in movies and other media before, so why not in Batman? I mean, Harley was a psychiatrist, right? Perhaps that's the only thing he can remember about his past life, and that's why it's her backstory.
Every time he knows he's in a movie. This one comes from the amazing 2008 film The Dark Knight. You see, this theory started floating around shortly after The Dark Knight was released. Throughout the film, we hear multiple stories about how Joker got his scars. Every time the Joker is with someone new, he tells them a different story. So, fans started to think that if the story was a lie and he was telling different people, then why did he change it? Some people believe that it was for the audience, since he was aware of them. Another scene is when he kills a guy with a pencil. Some people think he was interacting with the audience after he does it. Now, whether these are true or not, they are interesting to think about. Number 9. He's a former soldier. This theory also comes from The Dark Knight. Some fans believe that he is actually a former soldier who is suffering from PTSD. There are a few reasons this theory came to be. One of them was during the interrogation scene with Batman. He knew everything Batman was going to do, and he was able to take it all really well, which some people said would be because he was a prisoner of war at some point in his career. Another reason was when he was trying to assassinate the mayor. Everything from his outfit to his near-perfect impersonation of a soldier firing the gun. Fans believe that only someone with former military experience and knowledge would be able to pull something like that off. Number 8. Super sanity. Okay, so this one is very different. You see, some people believe that Joker has the power of super sanity. Well, people say that it would be being able to see things as they truly are and not as they are disguised to be. Because of this, it forced him to go crazy. The term super sanity comes from the comic book Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth. Now, because of this, people believe that with this power, he realized he was even in a comic book, which further caused him to spiral into badness. It's a little bit of a stretch, but, you know, it's pretty interesting, and would definitely change our perception of the Joker if it turned out to be true. Number 7. Didn't kill Batman's parents. In the 1989 film, Batman, it was revealed that it wasn't just some random mugger that killed Bruce's parents. It was actually the Joker. But some fans believe that that's not actually true. They believe that Batman hated the Joker so much that he actually made himself believe that it was the Joker who killed his parents, when, in reality, it really wasn't. They say it was a way to truly justify his hatred of the Joker, and that everything he was doing to stop the Joker was in the name of his parents. In the comics, Joker didn't kill Bruce's parents, and that's why a lot of fans chose not to believe it was true in the film as well. Number 6. Jason Todd. After the release of the 2016 film Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad, eagle-eyed fans noticed some interesting details about Batman and the Joker. A theory came out saying that they believed that the Joker in the DCU was actually Jason Todd, Batman's former sidekick. In the comic, Jason became the Red Hood, but fans believe in the live-action version he became the Joker. Everything from the Robin costume that Joker rode all over, to being how young Jared Leto's Joker was. Another interesting bit of info was that this Batman, wasn't really against killing, so why did he never kill the Joker? This theory suggests that Batman still believed that Jason could be saved. Even the line Bruce says in Batman v Superman backs it up. 20 years in Gotham, Alfred, we've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? Number 5. Everything was in Arthur's head. In 2019, fans everywhere went crazy for the film Joker. It starred Joaquin Phoenix, who fans have wanted to see play a live-action Joker for a very long time. This film follows Arthur Fleck and his transformation into the Joker. Or so fans thought. The ending of the film is left open to interpretation. Near the end of the film, it cuts to Arthur in Arkham Asylum, and he is laughing. The nurse asks him what's so funny, and he says that she wouldn't understand the joke. A lot of people took that as everything that happened in the film was actually in Arthur's head the whole time. Even director Todd Phillips wouldn't outright dismiss it. If it is true, it would automatically make you look at the film in a completely new way. Now, that's not the only theory that came out of the film. The other one is also very interesting, which leads us to number 4. Arthur wasn't the real Joker. This is also a theory, that Arthur wasn't the real Joker at all, but actually the person that inspired the real Joker. It started with people saying that he was too old and Bruce was, a kid at the time, and by the time Bruce would be old enough to be Batman, Arthur wouldn't really fit the description anymore. Todd Phillips also said this could be something to think about, that everything Arthur did in the film was the reason that another man would eventually take on the mantle of the Joker in the years to come, and become Batman's greatest foe. Number 3, Batman's brother. In the 2019 film Joker, they ended up building on it. For years, many fans believed that Joker and Batman were connected in some way. In the film, it was revealed that Thomas Wayne had an affair, and that affair brought Arthur into the world. Arthur's mother used to work for Thomas Wayne, and things got a little intimate. Now, Thomas denied it, saying that Arthur's mother was, unstable. But there's evidence that Thomas is covering it up, and it's left up to the viewer to decide. If it was true, it would make for an interesting interaction between Joker and the Dark Knight. Number 2, he's immortal. This would definitely explain a lot if it turned out to be true. Over the years, fans have noticed that no matter what happens, the Joker always returns. He has seemingly died multiple times, yet he always comes back. Now, to add more fuel to the fire, in the comic series Endgame, a meteorite came down to Earth and granted that version of Joker immortality. That wasn't the main version of him, but many believe that it could be true for the main Joker as well. Number 1, he's the real hero in the Dark Knight. Alright, so this theory is actually super interesting. People believe that Batman isn't actually the hero of the Dark Knight, but it's actually Joker. The reason for this is that Gotham was in terrible shape before he came along. Sure, Batman has done a lot of good, but it wasn't until the Joker took out almost every single gang, killed almost every single corrupt city official, and he got Gordon promoted to commissioner. He even made the city hate Batman, which in turn brought almost 10 years of peace in Gotham with the Dent Act. That's kind of crazy, but a lot of it is kind of accurate. Now, he also did a lot of bad things, and the way he accomplished them was wrong. But a lot of fans believe that you can't argue with the results that he got. It's something really interesting to think about.
Starting us off in at number 10, Batman is actually the villain. Let's ease into these grim fan theories, shall we? The idea behind this fan theory is that Bruce's resources are misspent. A man with that much fortune could easily help bolster Gotham in more economically effective ways, by pouring his resources into law enforcement training, infrastructure, or other programs that could benefit the citizens of Gotham and prevent crime altogether. By pouring his resources into law enforcement training, infrastructure, or other programs that could benefit the citizens of Gotham and prevent crime altogether. But instead, he decides to dress up in a high-tech batsuit with gadgets galore, and sometimes cost the city thousands in property damages fighting these insane criminals who have all popped up in order to counter his equally insane threat. The theory speculates that this is the case thanks to Bruce being obsessed with the idea of Batman and what Batman does. He leaves supervillains alive because if he kills them, he won't have anyone to beat up, or at least anyone who is a challenge. He must know that his methods keep crime coming. It's the age-old argument. Did the criminals of Gotham create Batman, or did he create them? What do you guys think? Moving on to number 9, The Killing Joke. Batman killed the Joker in The Killing Joke. That's what this theory suggests, and it's definitely one of the more speculated questions spawned from Alan Moore's text. In The Killing Joke, the Joker takes things too far. He shoots Barbara Gordon, it's implied that she's sexually assaulted and tortured, and he also kidnaps Commissioner Gordon, tosses him naked into a cage, and also torments him. Classic Joker. But this pushes Batman to the edge, and in their final conflict in the story, Batman starts to laugh at a joke of the villains. But then, as he begins to laugh hysterically alongside the Joker, we see the silhouette of his hand sitting close to the Joker's neck. The panels zoom in, and the final 2 panels show the laughter dying off. Many people have interpreted this as Batman strangling the Joker to death. So, why is this scary? Because if it's true, if Batman did kill the Joker, that completely absolves all of his morals, his code. Batman does not kill. We've seen the results of a Batman from an alternate universe who did kill the Joker and what he turned out to be because of it, aka the Batman Who Laughs from Earth -22. Pretty much any tale of an evil alternate Batman from the dark multiverse is a fitting cautionary tale to remember in terms of Batman defying his code, and how that changes the character drastically, for the worse. In at number 8, the Joker is self-aware. Not just in the traditional sense here, we're talking full-blown being aware that he's a character in a comic book. Kind of like Deadpool in the sense that his insanity gives him clarity or insight. Now, some people have speculated that this is actually a power of the Joker's. His insanity is actually some sort of super sanity. This primarily comes from a mention of the term super sanity by Grant Morrison in the Arkham Asylum comics, in which it's described that the Joker sees the world as it truly is, and how absurd it is for the world to believe in a man in a giant batsuit calling himself Batman. I mean, he's not wrong. The Joker sees that this logic could only exist in a comic book, therefore his behavior can be justified as such, and he's violent simply to entertain. Moving on to number 7, the contingency plan. This theory is a pretty straightforward one. It says that Batman has a contingency plan for himself, and that plan is Robin. Batman is a character who constantly has a backup plan. He's overprepared for every situation he willingly walks into. So storylines the likes of JLA Tower of Babel make perfect sense. In that one, it's revealed that Batman had a contingency plan in place for each member of the Justice League, in case any of them were to turn evil or corrupt. Within that line of logic, wouldn't it make sense that Batman would also have a contingency plan in place for himself? If he ever was manipulated or turned evil for whatever reason? This is where this fan theory comes in. Robin is his contingency plan. He's a character who knows Bruce like no other, with perhaps the exception of Alfred. Robin, regardless of the iteration, intimately knows Bruce's fighting techniques, his advantages and his weaknesses, and even his secrets. Why else would Batman be so adamant on training a young kid to fight crime? I mean, that question is a Pandora's box in itself, so debate below in the comments, friends. Moving on to number 6, The Dark Knight doesn't rise. Okay, so spoilers for those who haven't seen Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy here. Also, this number falls more into the category of sad with scary implications, so be warned. Be warned for the feels. Now, by the end of the Dark Knight Rises movie, it seems that all is well with Bruce Wayne. In the series, we learn that Alfred visits Florence every year on a trip, and on said trip this year, he imagines that he looks up and sees Bruce sitting across from him in a restaurant. Of course, how dare a superhero have a happy ending, because this theory suggests that this time around, Alfred is still imagining seeing Bruce sitting across the restaurant from him. What a happy coincidence it is, they suggest. Now, Alfred nods and leaves rather than being like, oh hey, you're still alive. And sure, he could be letting Bruce just live his life, but considering that when we last saw Bruce, he was piloting a plane before a bomb exploded, what are the chances that Bruce could have cleared that blast radius and lived? It's a little bleak, isn't it? So maybe it's all in Alfred's imagination. Hey, everyone has coping methods. Moving on to number 5, the Joker is immortal. The Joker has survived through a lot. He's been dropped from incredibly high heights. He's been maimed. He's been strangled. He's been stabbed a lot, and he's even had his face cut off by choice. The list goes on. But the Joker always somehow survives. He perseveres. This has led to fan speculation that he's actually immortal. Also, for the record, we're really not considering that whole 3 Jokers thing as an option here, people. So don't come at us with those retcon comments. Now, this theory suggests that when he fell into that vat of chemicals that turned him into the Joker and then threw his sanity to the wind, the Joker also inherited something else. That something was the activation of his metahuman gene, which is how he survived dropping into a freaking vat of acid. Just saying. Moving on to number 4, the animated series and its villains. 90s kids, get ready to have your childhood ruined. We're talking about the famous Batman the Animated Series at this number. And the theory? Well, it's that all of the villains in the show are actually figments of Bruce's imagination and are pieces of his fractured psyche. Yikes. It speculates that each villain plays a key role in said psyche. Two-Face represents the ceaseless push and pull between Bruce and Batman, the conflict of both personas. The Penguin represents the intoxicating power of the Wayne fortune and industries. Mr. Freeze represents Batman's cold heart, hence his trouble letting anyone in and maintaining more intimate relationships. And the Joker? Well, he's the insanity of the world Batman invites Bruce into. Up next, number 3, it's all a hoax. According to Batman's history and also Batman Year One, among other texts, Bruce leaves Gotham for quite some time before returning to run Wayne Enterprises at the start of his crime-fighting career. He had little interest in being a CEO and wanted to spend his time fighting crime. Here's where our theory comes in. The idea behind this one is that, with the assistance of Alfred and a few other key players, Bruce was actually tricked and lured back to Gotham in order to prevent Wayne Enterprises from going bankrupt. The company hired actors to be criminals for Bruce to take down as Batman. This is why the GCPD reluctantly works with him and why the bat signal exists. It's all a controlled situation, which is why Batman never loses, and why there hasn't been some larger federal government impact on Gotham and its criminals despite their heinous actions. Another version of this theory speculates that it's kind of like a Bruce Wayne version of The Truman Show, and the multiple iterations of Robins and other villains that have popped up over the years, well, those are new cast members being swapped in for whatever reason. Jason Todd's like, I'm not getting paid enough, so he just walks off the show and they kill him. Up next, number 2, Arkham's most prominent inmate. Take one guess as to who that title is referring to. This fan theory argues that Batman is actually an inmate at Arkham Asylum. The idea is that when Bruce's parents died, he went insane and created Batman and the entire Gotham universe inside of his own mind as a means of coping. He was shipped off to Arkham Asylum, and everyone he met there became a character in his Batman narrative. Alfred would visit and still be a voice of reason and comfort, but could never really break through. It also suggests this is why so many of Batman's foes have been doctors or scientists. Dr. Jonathan Crane tried to bring him back to reality, but because that reality was terrifying, it only pushed Bruce further into his own delusion, envisioning Crane as the Scarecrow. Same thing with Dr. Edward Nygma, whose words Bruce twisted into riddles himself. And finally, in at number 1, the Alfred theory. If you've ever heard of the Alfred is Bruce's real father theory, this one is a bit similar to that, but with much more nefarious implications. And also Alfred isn't his father, but you'll see what we mean in a sec. This one is a bit of a saga too, so we'll try to summarize it as best as we can. The idea here is that Alfred and Martha Wayne had an affair one night. They decide it's best to keep it a secret and forget that it ever happened. But then Martha gets pregnant. She never tells Thomas Wayne that Alfred is the father, and she doesn't tell Alfred that she's pregnant either. She ends up giving the baby boy up for adoption, with Martha and Thomas believing that they aren't ready for a child at this point in time. Martha then writes a letter to Alfred to help alleviate her guilt, but she never gives him the letter. The child that was put up for adoption grows up in foster homes and orphanages. No one wants him because he displays early signs of psychopathy and is constantly causing trouble. He eventually goes mad. Years later, Bruce Wayne is born. Alfred stumbles on the letter and is furious. He could have raised that child with love. So he decides to follow the Waynes out one night with malicious intentions. And surprise, surprise, he is the one who ends up shooting them in the alleyway. He decides to keep Bruce alive so that Bruce knows the pain of growing up parentless. That is savage. And eventually, that half-brother of Bruce's, well, he turns out to be the Joker. What a way to end a list with some really, really dark stuff.